Welcome back to your Pick Trail Show. Will Monclair alongside Kevin McPherson for your Hog Hoops report. Kevin, we got a list to get through today, but let's start off with, not to say the biggest news, but AB to the draft and Barry Dunning Jr. to the portal. Wow. I mean, we had a lot of stuff to talk about this week, but some stuff that we saw coming, some stuff that we didn't.
Maybe. No, I don't. Well, let's Anthony Black's decision, and he did this live on ESPN and was really glowing in his remarks about Eric Musselman and the staff, and basically everything that was laid out for him before he came to Arkansas playing out like he was told. I think that's huge because look, this was expected. I don't think anybody's heart's broken that Anthony Black's taking the next step in his journey. He's been projected as a top 15 draft pick all year long. Now a lot of it's in the top 10, so a lottery pick. The young man did what he was asked to do as well for the University of Arkansas. I thought he was the team's MVP. I wrote that in one of my most recent postseason piece that I did after I handed out individual awards. I thought he was the team's most valuable player this year, and it's a team that advanced to the Sweet 16. So Anthony Black makes his announcement on NBA Today on ESPN that he is, he made it official. For anybody that was holding out hope that he was coming back, they were probably kidding themselves because this was the path all along. So kudos to Anthony Black for making that choice. Big 6'7", big point guard who I think is going to have tremendous success throughout his career. He's going to be a hell of an NBA player, Will. But boy, a great ambassador for the University of Arkansas too. I don't know if you're paying attention to social media, but in the last few days, just surrounded by kids, man, doing one of those basketball camps in Fayetteville, right across the street at Fayetteville High School.
Like
and you just see how the young people rally around him in the state in addition to fans. So, and this is Arkansas's, by the way, their fourth player to announce for the NBA draft. We're going to talk about another guy here in a little bit. And Jordan Walsh, I think an announcement's coming up maybe in the next few days, likely next week. I think he's going to declare at minimum testing the waters, which would be a fifth. But we know Anthony Black, before him, Ricky Council, Devo Davis, Nick Smith Jr., that's 4 in. I think it's going to end up being 5. But Arkansas's got a chance to have more draft picks in school history, a chance if there's 5, because 4 went back in the 1992 draft. Todd Day, Lee Mayberry, Oliver Miller all went in the first round. Isaiah Butch Morris, who's still in the Fayetteville area to this day, was actually drafted in the second round. And so Arkansas had 4 players drafted. And this could be a scenario where we see I think no more than 4 probably. So they might be able to equal. But we'll just keep our eyes open. But Anthony Black, there's also news in this week of another departure in a different way. Barry Dunning Jr., the 6'6" freshman, 2-time Mr. Alabama, all basketball, or Alabama Mr. Basketball, Gatorade Player of the Year, back-to-back in that state. Barry Dunning Jr. didn't see a lot of playing time, but he went in the portal on Friday. It was announced as well. These announcements, when players go in the portal, by the way, from Arkansas, it's always interesting. It seems like those news drops happen after 5 o'clock, after close of business on a Friday. That's kind of how your government drops those bad news bombs. It's after the business weekends, right?
They've been PR trained.
Let it simmer and seep in through the weekend. But Barry Dunning to the portal, I know a lot of Razorback fans were excited about his potential, but this is the business of college basketball now. The portal has kind of bumped high school recruiting in a lot of ways in terms of relevance and importance. Not all the way, because we've seen Arkansas and Eric Musselman have success with 5 stars. We just went through some of them now that are one and dones. We talk about Smith and Black being the one and dones, potentially Jordan Walsh. We know Moses Moody was the program's first just 2 years ago. He went in the lottery. So this is a reality of college basketball. And so, Barry Dunning Jr. going into the portal gives Arkansas another opening. And we need to run through what happened with commitments.
Yeah, here we do. 2 of them
in the past week, so that we can kind of go through the roster numbers and explain what's still going on in portal recruiting.
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay. Well, that's a quick segue.
I know, the tee up of a lifetime.
So look, last weekend when we were on, we talked about the first 2 commitments that happened the prior week. Keon Minifield Jr., who, by the way, took a visit to Arkansas this weekend. He was on the campus. But 2 weeks prior, he actually committed to the Razorbacks. The all Pac-12 freshman team, 6'1" guard. I'm going to call him a combo guard. He's probably going to play a lot on the ball when he gets his opportunities at Arkansas. But at 6'1", has great length and quickness. Just took that visit this weekend, by the way, after committing 2 weeks ago. He was the first off the board. Tremon Mark a week ago, the
Mm-hmm.
6'5" wing with all that NCAA tournament experience and starting experience at Houston, one of the top programs now in college basketball. Under his resume, Final Four, Elite Eight, Sweet 16. But he committed to Arkansas. And so 6'5" wing, versatile defender, a plus defender, maybe verging on elite. His offensive game, he and Minifield both started to show more offensive production toward the end of their seasons. So keep an eye on that. And then we talked last week about a couple of visitors. One of those was Khalif Battle. Well, he came off the board as Arkansas's third commitment midweek last week. 6'5" guard, grad transfer out of Temple. This guy can fill it up. 18 points a game. The last 2 seasons at Temple, nearly 3 makes from 3 per game. So nearly 3 triples per game, shooting it at just over 37%. That's highly efficient for that volume. And he's a guy, if you run him off the line wheel, he's going to get in the mid-range or get to the right. He knows how to score. Again, he's not just a shooter. He's a scorer, 18 points a game. And so when you look at a guy like that and you look at what Arkansas hasn't been able to do shooting from 3, it's a pretty big deal. Now, his high school teammate, Jameer Watkins, a 6'7" combo forward, visited with him last week. It looked as though that might be the 4th commitment, Watkins, but it turns out that didn't work out. He actually committed here in the last few hours to Florida State. But Arkansas picked up a commitment from Jeremiah Davenport.
Yep.
Let's go back to that 6'7" size, 6'7", good length, Cincinnati guy that played 4 years at Cincinnati. So he's a grad. Arkansas faced him 2 years ago in the Hall of Fame Classic in Kansas City in November in the 21-22 season. But here's a guy that's another 3-point shooter. Most of his production at 6'7" is shooting from behind the arc. Over 200 made threes in his career at Cincinnati and a 35% shooter. So when you look at that volume and that percentage, you'll take it. What I really like about those last 2 commitments is Arkansas's addressing the poor shooting from 3 because you got volume shooters and guys that can knock them down. We talked about Minifield and Mark. Those guys have their own positives. Mark more of a defensive player, but neither one of them, when you looked at them percentage-wise, you think, okay, this helps Arkansas get better from behind the arc. I think the last 2 we just talked about who committed this past week, Battle and Davenport, do help Arkansas get better there. And the other thing I really love about this, Arkansas struggled at the free throw line last year when you looked at it from A to Z. Got a little bit better in the postseason that helped them get over the hump in those games and advance that Sweet 16, but as a total arc, not very good shooting at the free throw line. You know, you start looking at these guys. Tremon Mark out of Houston, 78, 79% from the free throw line in his career. Battle at Temple, coming out of Temple last year, 89% from the free throw line. You look at Davenport, who I just mentioned, the 6'7", and I'm going to call him a combo. He's a wing. He's more on the wing side, and I talked about the 3-point shooting, but he's also a guy that will rebound per minute. He's a good rebounder, so he may have some role in 3-4 combo. But he shot 83% from the free throw line last year. That was a career high. But now these guys are needle movers as well when you start talking about replacing all those players that are going in the draft for Arkansas to that backcourt. Now you're bringing in guys that can help improve 3-point shooting and free throw shooting. And those are going to be big, I think, upgrades in this backcourt in terms of just the percentages, how they look now versus what we just saw. Not comparing the talent, because I'm not saying that all these guys in a year's time we're going to be talking about going into that NBA draft as likely draft picks. But what I am saying at the collegiate level, you get this experience and you get guys, when you look at percentages, help Arkansas get better in areas where it struggled last year. And so we got at least, when we talk about Dunning going in, even with these 2 commitments, with Dunning going in on Friday, it opened up a roster spot. And I think Arkansas will, I'm not going to drop a bomb here in terms of naming a name, but Arkansas is going to have a 5th portal commitment, I believe, sometime in the early part of the day on Monday, tomorrow. So Arkansas is about to add a 5th. Arkansas has been stocking up on backcourt players because that's mostly what's have come out to this point. And so they've got to replace that with like I said, those veteran qualities, guys with experience. And I think Arkansas is going to add another backcourt piece. I believe that'll happen tomorrow. So it'll be 5 portal commitments early in the day after tomorrow. And we're going to be looking at them as backcourt pieces. And I think Arkansas, with a Jordan Walsh announcement, like I mentioned, I teased on that. I think it's coming up. And I do believe he's going to test the NBA draft waters at minimum. He may jump in with both feet and not decide not to return, but that'll open up another spot for a 6th portal commitment. And I do think Arkansas is going to focus on a frontline guy if they add a 6-piece, and I think they're working toward that. But I think that's how the numbers are going to, they kind of play themselves out of Arkansas. Someone goes in the portal or announces they're going to the NBA draft, then you see a commitment. And so right now, Arkansas has an opening coming out of the weekend because of Dunning's departure to the portal. And I think we're going to see a commitment off the board early. Arkansas did have one other visitor, by the way, on Friday, an Arkansas product, Springdale Harbor, former Springdale Harbor star, Tyler Perry, 5'11 guard, the most valuable, the player of the year in Conference USA this past season, was the NIT's most outstanding player after leading North Texas to the NIT championship in March. But he's a 5'11 guard who's a highly efficient three-point shooter, 3 makes per game, over 41%. And so he took a visit to Arkansas on Friday. He told me we did a big piece on him. It's on hogville.net. It's at Pig Trail Nation on KNWA's website. But he talked about, his visit to Arkansas. He really liked it. But he also told me, which I didn't put in the stories, he told me a little bit later that he did decide he's going to move on with a visit to Alabama and then Ole Miss after that. So if you take him at his word, he's got stuff stacked up still to go, and Arkansas is going to get a commitment by tomorrow. You want to kind of keep your eye on the commitment, regardless of who just took a visit to the Razorbacks over the weekend. So things can change in recruiting. Last week we thought one guy was going to come off the board in Watkins, and it ended up being Davenport. So kind of pay attention to some of the recent history when we look tomorrow for that commitment.
Kevin, I cannot wait to hear what that news is tomorrow. Transfers, obviously an enormous part of this, but high school recruiting, obviously an enormous part as well. Grassroots right around the corner here. Who should Arkansas be keeping an eye out for?
Well, I mean, there's a lot, and I'm glad you brought it up. Next weekend, a week from now, was the first live evaluation period where Division I coaches can hit the road. You've got the Adidas circuit, the Nike circuit, the Under Armour circuit, some of the other circuits. The big ones are Adidas, Nike, and Under Armour. Nike, is kind of the king of the hill there. But on the Adidas circuit out of Arkansas, the Arkansas Hawks 17U, K. Honor Boateng, a 5-star out of Little Rock Central, 6'6" wing from the class of 2024. Terrion Burgess, a 6'9" wing small forward out of Benton, Arkansas, class of 2025. Both of these guys are rated in the national top 20 in their classes. Arkansas Hawks will be in the Adidas 3SSB first live evaluation event it's the Omaha, Nebraska area, Council Bluff, Iowa, I guess. But it's that part of the country. Like I said, Division I coaches will be crawling in the building. These guys will be playing multiple games Friday, Saturday through Sunday. These guys have held Arkansas Razorbacks offers, and this is their next opportunity to get even more exposure. Both of them have several, when you talk about high major schools and programs, offers, but they'll pick up more. And Arkansas will be able to continue to evaluate them against other high-level national players. Just on Friday alone, the Hawks played Team Trey Young, 17U, who's got Dink Pate, the big 6'7", 6'8" combo guard out of the Dallas area that Arkansas has been recruiting heavily. Another 5-star. He and Boateng will be in that game. 2 5-stars, Arkansas Hawks, Trey Young. So it just kind of gives you a glimpse of what's going on. You look at the Nike circuit, plenty of Arkansas kids playing in that. Landrin Blocker, 6'4" guard out of Little Rock Christian, with Brad Bill Elite, 17U. This was the state title game MVP after dropping a 30-piece in the state title game in the 4A, beating a really good Blytheville team Little Rock Christian did just last month. And so he's going to be – this will be his last go-round on the circuit. He's got multiple high major offers. Arkansas has been looking at him. They've had interest. But you can bet Arkansas coaches are going to be out there. 2026 J.J. Andrews, also at Little Rock Christian, was just a freshman this past season, was all-state. One of the top players in the state already as a freshman, is arguably, in my opinion, a guy at 6'5", so athletic, strong, and built, that's going to end up being one of those 5-star caliber players in the 2026 class. Jacob Anir, a 2026 guard out of Maumelle, also playing on the Nike EYBL circuit. 2026 has picked up multiple high major offers. He went to Arkansas Elite Camp last year. Arkansas has interest in him, but a 6'5", 6'6" guard out of Maumelle. Lanier's recently picked up offers from TCU, Texas A&M, and some others. And so we keep an eye on all these young players. Jayshawn Hayes out of Whitehall, class of 2025, same as Burgess. They played each other during the high school season. He's on the circuit as well when we talk Nike on the big stage. And so Arkansas coaches will fan out. There's all kinds of players and prospects from the 24, 25, and 26 classes that Arkansas coaches will be watching. Many of those in-state guys I just mentioned, but plenty from out of state and coast to coast. We know Arkansas has had success recruiting out of Texas. I mentioned Deke Pate. There are others. Trey Johnson, the #1 player in class of 2024. I think he still wants to take a visit to Arkansas. And he's getting a who's who of programs as the #1 player in 2024, the highest of high 5-stars. So keep an eye on all these names and more. We'll be reporting on all of them as we go. But grassroots season now, overlapping with the end of what I think will be soon the end of portal season for Arkansas. They move through it pretty precisely. Although you never know with Eric Musselman, because the portal, last year it carried into May with Ricky Council.
Yeah, Kevin, it always impresses me how you can pull all these high school names off the top of your head as a journalist. I appreciate that. Moving over to Pro Hogs now, NBA playoffs in full effect. As a Celtics fan, that Milwaukee series, if we get there, assuming that we will, one that I'm not looking forward to. I don't know if you want to start talking Bobby Portis, but Pro Hogs, obviously a huge time for everybody. Where do you want to jump in?
Portis and the Milwaukee Bucks are the top seed, obviously, in the Eastern Conference. They had the best record in the NBA. So as long as they're in the playoffs, they'll have home court. Bobby Portis, by the way, this past week named as one of 3 finalists for the NBA Sixth Man of the Year. That'll drop soon.
Been talking about it all year.
I mentioned last week who's in the running with one of your Celtics.
We've been campaigning all year. He better get it.
But Malcolm Brogdon's in that mix of the guard at Boston. He was a starter for the longest time with the Pacers. He comes off the bench. Boston's loaded. You know that. I think those are the 2 best teams in the East, by the way, Milwaukee and Boston. The seedings say they are, but I think they're the 2 best teams in the NBA.
Yeah, who knows
we'll see what happens down the road. Milwaukee's got to take care of business first against Miami, who won its play-in tournament to finish as the 2nd team out of the play-in tournament, coming in as the 8th seed. I know Boston. So Miami and Milwaukee later on this afternoon in Game 1 in their first round series. I know Boston's already off to a great start over Atlanta, the other play-in team that got in first as the 7th seed. And you've already got Moses Moody and Golden State. They're already 0-1. They got in as the 6th seed. They lost on the road last night to the 3 seed Sacramento Kings. I still like the matchup for Golden State, the defending NBA champs in that series. We'll see. It's a long series, and guys like Steph Curry, obviously Klay Thompson, Draymond Green, and some others know how to get it done in Titletown out there. But Moses Moody, if you're an Arkansas fan now, you're down to 2 Razorbacks. Mm-hmm. Patrick Beverly with the Chicago Bulls, Isaiah Joe and Jalen Williams with the Oklahoma City Thunder. Both of those teams as 10 seeds became the first ever 10 seeds in the play-in tournament to win their opening game. They have to go on the road. So they win, but they don't get into the playoffs just off of that as a 10 seed. You've then got to go on the road again and play the loser of that 7-8 that was played, prior. And, both OKC and the Bulls lost on the road in their second road game, and didn't advance to the playoffs. But they went 1-1 in the play-in tournament. Great experience. Of course, Beverly's been there, done that in the playoffs. Jalen Williams as a rookie, Isaiah Joe just in his 3rd season, who did have a little bit of a taste of the playoffs with the Sixers in his first 2 years in the NBA. But those guys got valuable experience. But now if you're an Arkansas fan, you've got eyes on Bobby Portis, Milwaukee, Golden State, and Moses Moody. It doesn't matter who your favorite team is in the NBA if it's not one of those 2. If you're a Hog fan, you'll be glad if those 2 teams can make it all the way to the finals and match up. And look, those are your last 2 NBA champions. The Milwaukee Bucks won the finals 2 years ago. Last season, it was Golden State in that dynasty. It'd be cool to see those teams hook up again and the Pro Hogs play all the way to the end, Will.
Yeah, absolutely, Kevin. All very exciting stuff. And Kev, we appreciate your time. We're going to go to break. More Pig Chill Show after this.